Commander Deho stood at the massive window of Nexus Prime Station, watching ships from dozens of worlds dock at the enormous space hub. The station was bigger than Earth's moon, floating in the empty space between two star systems. For 3,000 years, it had been the center of galactic science and engineering. Today, Deho felt very small. "Sir, they're ready for us," said Dr. Sora, walking up behind him. She was young for a quantum physicist, barely 30, with short black hair and tired eyes. She had been working for weeks to prepare for this moment. Deho nodded and straightened his blue uniform. "Remember, we only get one chance. If we fail, humanity gets kicked out of the consortium forever." They walked through the station's wide halls. Alien beings moved around them, some floating, some walking on 6 legs, others that looked like living crystals. Most ignored the humans completely. A few stared with what looked like curiosity or disgust. The Galactic Engineering Consortium was the most important group in the galaxy. Only the smartest species could join. They worked on the biggest problems, fixing dying stars, building space bridges between galaxies, and solving puzzles left behind by ancient alien races. Humanity had begged to join for 50 years. Most alien species thought humans were too primitive. Earth's technology was like stone tools compared to what other worlds had built. But 6 months ago, something changed. The consortium had announced they needed fresh minds for their biggest challenge, the Void Gate Paradox. They were so desperate that they agreed to let humans try. Deho and Sora entered the main laboratory. The room was huge, with a high ceiling that disappeared into darkness. In the center sat the most amazing thing Deho had ever seen. The Void Gate artifact was 20 feet tall and shaped like a twisted crystal tree. It glowed with soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Strange symbols moved across its surface, appearing and disappearing like living things. Sometimes the symbols looked like numbers. Sometimes they looked like music notes. Sometimes they looked like nothing at all. Around the artifact, the galaxy's greatest minds worked in separate groups. The Vorthak looked like walking diamonds. They were pure logic creatures who could solve math problems that would take human computers years to finish. Their leader, High Calculator Zenth, was working with floating holograms covered in equations that hurt Deho's eyes to look at. The Kalari were stranger. They looked like gray insects, but they shared one mind among thousands of bodies. When one learned something, they all knew it instantly. Their queen node sat perfectly still, surrounded by 50 of her workers who moved in perfect harmony. Tiu. Luxari were the strangest of all. They had no solid bodies, just floating balls of bright energy that spoke through electronic devices. They claimed to be the most evolved beings in the galaxy, having given up physical form long ago. All 3 species had been working on the Void Gate for over 1,000 years. They had tried everything their advanced minds could think of. Nothing worked. "Ah, the humans have arrived," said High Calculator Zenth. His voice sounded like breaking glass. "How amusing. Perhaps you can entertain us while we work on real solutions." The Kalari Queen Node's electronic voice buzzed to life. "Human. Minds are too chaotic, too individual. This puzzle requires perfect order and unity of thought." One of the Luxari energy beings pulsed brighter. "Primitive biological brains cannot comprehend the complexity of this ancient technology. You waste our time." Deho felt his face grow, hot with anger, but he kept his voice calm. "We're here to help. Maybe fresh eyes will see something you missed." Missed? Zenth's crystalline body rang like a bell. "We have calculated over 9 billion possible solutions. We have tested every mathematical combination known to science. What could your primitive minds possibly add?" Dr. Sora stepped forward. She looked tiny next to the alien giants, but her voice was steady. "Maybe the problem isn't math, maybe it's something else." The aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. "Everything is mathematics," Zenth said. "The universe runs on numbers and equations. This artifact responds to pure logic, nothing more." "Actually," said a new voice behind them. Engineer Bowman had just arrived, carrying a toolbox and looking like he had been working all night. He was older than Sora, with gray in his hair and oil stains on his jacket. "I've been reading the old reports. The artifact doesn't just respond to math. It reacts to brain patterns, right?" Correct, buzzed the Queen node. Mental harmonics combined with mathematical precision. We have tested this thoroughly. But you've only tested alien brains, Bowman said. Human brains might work differently. The Luxari energy being pulsed in what looked like annoyance. Human neural patterns are crude compared to evolved consciousness. Your thoughts are random noise. Deho watched his small team face the alien giants. Humanity's best and brightest, standing against beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. It should have been hopeless. But something bothered him about what the aliens had said. They kept talking about logic, math, and perfect order. They saw the artifact as a puzzle with one correct answer. What if they were wrong? Can we examine the artifact? Sora asked. Zenth waved a crystalline hand. Observe all you wish. Touch nothing. The device is too valuable to risk human clumsiness damaging it. Sora walked slowly around the void gate. She studied the moving symbols, the pulse of light, the way the crystal seemed to shift and flow like water. Bowman joined her, pulling out strange human tools that looked primitive next to the alien equipment. It's beautiful, Sora whispered. Beautiful? The Queen node buzzed with confusion. It is a functional mechanism. Beauty is irrelevant. Maybe not, Bowman said quietly. He was running his hands just above the crystal surface, not quite touching. Look at these patterns. They're not random. But they're not pure math either. There's something else here. Deho joined them. As a commander, he wasn't a scientist, but he had led enough engineering teams to recognize something important. The aliens are all working alone, he said quietly. Each species is trying to solve this their own way. The Vorthak use pure math. The Kalari use group thinking. The Luxari use energy patterns, but what if the puzzle needs all of those things working together? Sora's eyes lit up. Or something none of them have tried. What could we possibly have that they lack? Bowman asked. Deho looked at his small team. A commander who had started as a mechanic. A young physicist who loved asking impossible questions. An engineer who fixed things by trying crazy ideas until something worked. They weren't the smartest beings in the galaxy. They didn't have the most advanced technology. But maybe that didn't matter. We think differently, he said finally. They see a puzzle to be solved. Maybe we need to see something else. The alien species continued their work, ignoring the humans completely. Equations filled the air around the Vorthak. The Kalari moved in perfect patterns. The Luxari pulsed, with controlled energy. All of them were brilliant. All of them had failed. Now it was humanity's turn. As the station's artificial day cycle dimmed to night, Deho made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. Tomorrow, we try the human way, he said. None of them knew what that meant yet, but they were about to find out. Dr. Sora arrived at the laboratory early the next morning. The artificial lights of Nexus Prime were just starting to brighten, and most of the alien scientists were still in their rest cycles. She wanted to study the Void Gate alone, without the aliens watching her every move. The artifact hummed softly in the empty room. Up close, Sora could see details she had missed yesterday. The symbols on its surface weren't just moving randomly. They followed patterns. Sometimes they looked like mathematical equations. Other times they looked like musical notes dancing across a page. "You're up early," said a voice behind her. Sora turned to see technician Jae-wook walking into the lab. He was barely 25, the youngest member of their team. His hair was messy and he carried a cup of coffee that smelled like earth. "I couldn't sleep," Sora said. "This thing is incredible. Look at these patterns." Jae-wook set down his coffee and joined her. As a programmer, he was used to looking at complex systems and finding the logic inside them. But this was different. "The aliens have been studying this for 1,000 years, he said. "What makes us think we can figure it out in a few days?" "Maybe because we're not aliens," Sora said. She pointed at the moving symbols. "Watch this section here. The Vorthak think it's a mathematical sequence. But what if it's not math at all?" Jae-wook squinted at the crystal surface. The symbols did look like numbers at first glance, but the More he watched, the more they looked like something else. Those look like music notes, he said. Exactly. And this section over here, the Kalari think it's a logic puzzle. But to me, it looks like a poem. Dr. Mi-young entered the lab, followed by Engineer Bowman. Mi-young was a xenopsychologist. She studied how different alien species thought and behaved. Bowman looked like he hadn't slept much either. Any new discoveries? Bowman asked. We think the artifact isn't just mathematical, Sora said. It might be artistic too. Mi-young walked around the void gate slowly. She had spent years studying alien cultures, trying to understand how different species solved problems. Each race had their own way of thinking. The Vortex see everything as pure logic, she said. To them, the universe is just a giant equation, waiting to be solved. The Kellery think as a group. They can't imagine individual creativity. And the Luxari believe they're beyond physical needs like art or music. So none of them would think to look for artistic patterns, Jaewook said. Right, but humans use both logic and creativity. We solve problems with our heads and our hearts. Bowman was examining his scanner readings from yesterday. Look at this, he said. When the artifact pulses, it's not just sending out energy. It's sending out information, complex information. What kind of information? Sora asked. I'm not sure yet, but it's definitely trying to communicate something. Over the next few hours, more of the human team arrived. Each person brought a different skill and a different way of looking at the problem. Captain Wu Jin was a military strategist. He was used to thinking about complex problems with many moving parts. When he looked at the void gate, he didn't see a puzzle. He saw a system with multiple layers that all worked together. This reminds me of planning a space battle, he said. You can't just focus on one thing. You have to think about tactics, logistics, communications, and psychology all at the same time. Researcher Yoonji was a cultural anthropologist. She studied how different societies created art, music, and stories. When she saw the moving symbols, she thought about human cave paintings and ancient songs. What if this isn't a lock that needs a key? She suggested. What if it's more like a conversation? The aliens started arriving as the day shift began. High Calculator Zenth moved to his usual spot and began projecting mathematical formulas into the air. The Kalari Queen node sat motionless while her workers arranged themselves in perfect geometric patterns. The Luxari energy beings floated above everything, pulsing with controlled light. All of them ignored the humans completely. They think. We're wasting time, Jaewook whispered to Sora. Let them think that, she whispered back. While they're focused on being right, we can focus on finding answers. The human team spent the morning testing their theories. They played different types of music near the artifact. They tried showing it human art and poetry. They even told it jokes, though nothing seemed to happen. But Sora noticed something the aliens had missed. When the humans worked together, talking, laughing, arguing about ideas, the artifact's pulse changed slightly. The symbols moved faster as if it was paying attention. It's responding to us, she told the others during their lunch break. Not to our technology or our tests, to us as people. What do you mean? Bowman asked. Watch the symbols when we're having a normal conversation. They move differently than when we're trying to solve the puzzle directly. They returned to the EO lab and tested Sora's theory. When they talked about Earth, their families, or funny stories, the artifact definitely reacted. The symbols brightened and moved in more complex patterns. It's like it enjoys listening to us, Yoonji said. Like, it's curious about human culture. But why would an ancient alien device care about human culture? Wu Jin asked. Mi-young had an idea. What if the beings who built this weren't so different from us? What if they valued creativity and individuality too? By late afternoon, the alien scientists were getting frustrated. Zenth had run out of new equations to try. The Kalari were moving in the same patterns they had used for centuries. The Luxari were growing dimmer with exhaustion, but the humans were more excited than ever. I think I understand what's happening, Sora said during their evening meeting. The aliens are trying to crack this thing like it's a safe. They think if they find the right combination, it will open. And that's wrong? Jae-wook asked. Maybe. What if the void gate doesn't want to be cracked? What if it wants to be understood? Like the difference between breaking down a door and being invited inside, Bowman said. Exactly. The aliens are trying to force their way in with pure logic, but what if the artifact wants something else? What if it wants to know who we are before it trusts us with its secrets? The team looked at each other. It was a crazy idea, but it felt right in a way that pure mathematics never could. So how do we introduce ourselves to an ancient alien machine? Woo Jin asked. So-ra smiled. The same way humans have always introduced themselves to strangers. We tell our story. We share our music, our art, our dreams. We show it what makes us human. The aliens will think we're insane, Jae-wook said. The aliens have been failing for 1,000 years, Mi-young pointed out. Maybe insane is exactly what this puzzle needs. Outside the laboratory windows, the stars of a dozen solar systems twinkled in the darkness. Tomorrow, the human team would try something no species had ever attempted with the Void Gate. They would try to make friends with it. As they prepared to leave for the night, So-ra took one last look at the artifact. The symbols were moving in slow, peaceful patterns, almost like it was sleeping. "Good night," she whispered to it. For just a moment she could have sworn the symbols pulsed a little brighter, as if the ancient machine was saying good night back. The next morning, High Calculator Zenth called all the scientists together for a special meeting. His crystalline body rang with excitement as he floated in front of the Void Gate. After 900 years of calculation, we have discovered the solution, he announced. Behold, the perfect mathematical matrix. Holographic numbers filled the air around the artifact. Equations twisted and spiraled in patterns so complex that even Dr. So-ra felt dizzy looking at them. The math was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The Kalari Queen node buzzed approvingly. The calculations are flawless, this must be correct. The Luxari energy beings pulsed brighter. Finally, a solution worthy of evolved minds. All the alien scientists watched as Zenth approached the Void Gate. He placed his diamond-like hands on the crystal surface and began transmitting his mathematical matrix directly into the artifact. The symbols on the Void Gate moved faster. The blue light pulsed brighter. For a moment it looked like something was about to happen. Then everything stopped. The symbols returned to their slow, peaceful movement. The light dimmed back to its normal glow. The Void Gate sat silent and unchanged, just as it had for 3,000 years. Zenth stepped back, his body ringing with confusion. Impossible. The mathematics were perfect. Perhaps we need a different approach, buzzed the Queen node. Our collective consciousness has developed a new harmony pattern. The Kellery workers arranged themselves around the artifact in a complex formation. They began humming together, creating a sound that made the humans' teeth ache. Their shared mind focused every thought on the Void Gate. Again, the symbols moved faster. Again, the light grew brighter. Again, nothing happened. The Luxari tried. Next, pouring pure energy into the crystal structure. Their light show was incredible, turning the laboratory into a rainbow of colors. But when the display ended, the Void Gate remained exactly the same. "I don't understand," one of the Luxari said, its electronic voice filled with frustration. "We have tried every logical approach." Commander Daeho watched the alien scientists grow more and more upset. They had been so sure that their new methods would work. Now they looked lost and confused. "Maybe we can try our approach now," he suggested quietly. Zenth turned toward the humans, his crystalline face reflecting anger and desperation. "Your approach? You have no approach. You have spent 2 days playing games and telling stories." "Maybe that's exactly what we need," said Dr. So-ra. She walked up to the Void Gate while the aliens watched. Instead of touching it with scanners or mathematical formulas, she simply placed her hand gently on its surface. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is So-ra. I'm from a planet called Earth." The aliens made sounds of disgust and disbelief. "The human is talking to a machine," The Queen Node buzzed. This is madness. But Jae-wook had noticed something the aliens missed. The symbols on the void gate had changed when So-Ra spoke. They were moving in a different pattern now, slower, more gentle, almost curious. It's listening to her, he whispered to Bo-min. Engineer Bo-min stepped forward to join So-Ra. I'm Bo-min. I fix things for a living. We're here because we want to understand you. More symbols appeared on the crystal surface. These looked different from anything they had seen before. Not mathematical equations or logic puzzles, but something that looked almost like writing. Dr. Mi-young gasped. Those symbols, they look like questions. Questions? So-Ra leaned closer to the artifact. You want to know about us? The crystal pulsed brighter, and new symbols appeared. Captain Wu Jin, who had studied ancient languages during his military training, tried to read them. I think it's asking who we are, he said. Not what we know or how smart we are. Who we are as people. The human team looked at each other. This was completely different from anything the aliens had tried. Instead of showing the void gate how advanced they were, it wanted to know about their hearts and minds. Should we tell it? Yoonji asked. Why not? So-Ra said. If it wants to know about humans, let's show it what makes us special. So-Ra began to talk to the void gate like it was an old friend. She told it about Earth, the blue oceans, green forests, and white clouds. She described human cities full of music and laughter. She explained how humans created art not because they had to, but because beauty made them happy. As she spoke, the artifact's light grew warmer. The symbols moved faster, but not in the chaotic way they had moved for the aliens. These patterns were organized but natural, like a conversation between friends. Jae-wook joined in, describing human technology. But instead of just listing facts, he talked about why humans built things. We don't just want to survive, he said. We want to explore. We want to discover new worlds and meet new friends. The void gate pulsed with what looked like approval. Bowman talked about human engineering. We don't always follow the rules, he admitted. Sometimes we try crazy ideas that shouldn't work, but sometimes those crazy ideas lead to amazing discoveries. Each human team member added their voice to the conversation. Wu Jin described human courage and how people would risk everything to protect their friends. Mi-young explained human curiosity and how they never stopped asking questions. Yoonji told stories about human art, music, and poetry. The alien scientists watched in amazement. The void gate was responding to the humans in ways it had never responded to advanced mathematics or perfect logic. What are they doing? Xanth asked, his voice filled with confusion. They're being human, Mi-young said simply. As the humans continued talking, something incredible happened. The void gate began to respond with its own symbols. But these weren't questions anymore, they were answers. The ancient artifact was telling the humans about itself. So-Ra realized what was happening. It's not a puzzle, she said to the others. It's a test, but not a test of intelligence or knowledge. It's a test of character. Character? Bo-min asked. The aliens who built this wanted to know what kind of people would use their technology. They didn't want to give it to species who only cared about power or logic. They wanted to give it to species who valued friendship, creativity, and wonder. The symbols on the void gate were moving faster now, creating beautiful patterns that looked like art and music combined. The crystal itself began to change, unfolding like a flower made of light. It's opening, Jae-wook whispered. High Calculator Xanth stepped forward, his diamond body shaking. Impossible. We tried everything. Every calculation, every formula, every logical approach. You tried to crack it like a safe, So-Ra said gently. But it didn't want to be cracked, it wanted to be understood. It wanted to know that we were the kind of people who would use its gift wisely. The void gate was fully open now, revealing a core of pure energy that pulsed with the rhythm of a heartbeat. Information flowed from it, not just technical data, but something deeper. The ancient builders were sharing their hopes and dreams for the future. Commander Daeho felt tears in his eyes as he understood what they had accomplished. Humanity hadn't solved the galaxy's toughest puzzle through superior intelligence or advanced technology. They had solved it by being themselves, curious, creative, and kind. The Kalari Queen node buzzed with something that sounded like wonder. In all our calculations, we never considered friendship. One of the Luxari energy beings dimmed to a soft glow. We evolved beyond emotion long ago. We thought it made us stronger. Perhaps we were wrong. The Void Gate continued to unfold, revealing secrets that would change the galaxy forever. But for now, the human team simply stood together, watching in amazement as their simple act of kindness had unlocked the universe's greatest mystery. They had done something impossible. They had made friends with an ancient alien machine, and that friendship was about to change everything. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within hours, every major world knew that humans had solved the Void Gate paradox. The species that most aliens considered barely civilized had cracked the puzzle that had stumped the greatest minds for 3,000 years. High Calculator, Zenth stood in his private chamber aboard Nexus Prime, staring at data that made no sense to him. His diamond body flickered with confusion as he ran the same calculations over and over again. How? He kept asking himself. How did they do it? The mathematical matrix he had created was perfect. Every equation was flawless, every calculation was precise. By all logical standards, his solution should have worked. But the humans had succeeded with no mathematics at all. They had simply talked to the artifact like it was alive. A message arrived from the Vorthak High Council. Zenth's superiors wanted answers that he didn't have. The humans used no advanced formulas, he reported. No complex calculations. They spoke to the device about their culture, their feelings, their dreams. It should not have worked. The response came back quickly. Study their methods. Learn how they think. We must understand this ability. Across the station, the Kalari Queen node faced her own crisis. For the first time in her species' history, the collective consciousness was experiencing individual thoughts. Her workers had watched the humans succeed through personal expression and creativity. Now some Kalari were trying to think for themselves, instead of sharing every thought with the group. This is dangerous, she buzzed to her advisors. Individual thinking leads to chaos and conflict. But deep in her shared mind, she felt something new, curiosity. What would it be like to have her own thoughts? Her own dreams? The Luxari faced the biggest shock of all. They had evolved beyond physical form thousands of years ago, believing that emotions and creativity were weaknesses that held back true intelligence. Now they watched recordings of the humans solving the puzzle through friendship and wonder. The very qualities the Luxari had abandoned were the keys to the galaxy's greatest mystery. We must reconsider our evolution, one Luxari admitted to the others. Perhaps we lost something important when we gave up our hearts. Ambassador Hyun-Soo arrived at Nexus Prime 2 days after the breakthrough. He was Earth's senior diplomat, a calm man in his 60s who had spent years trying to earn respect for humanity in galactic politics. He found Commander Dae-ho in the observation deck, watching the Void Gate network activate for the first time in millions of years. "Congratulations," Hyun-Soo said. "Earth is very proud of what you've accomplished." "Thank you, sir. But I think we've just created a big problem for ourselves." "What do you mean?" Dae-ho pointed to the message screens that covered one wall. Hundreds of requests were pouring in from across the galaxy. Every major species wanted human help with their own unsolved problems. The Altran Republic wants us to fix their dying star. The Nexus Collective has a plague they can't cure. The Outer Rim worlds are asking for help with space pirates. Everyone thinks humans can solve anything now. Hyun-Soo read through the messages, his eyes growing wider. "They're right to ask. Look at what you did here." "But we're not miracle workers," Dae-ho said. "We just think differently, and now everyone expects us to save the galaxy." Scientist Yejin entered the observation deck, carrying a datapad full of readings from the Void Gate network. She was one of Earth's leading experts on alien technology, brought in to study what the humans had unlocked. "The network is incredible," she reported. There are over 10,000 void gates scattered across the galaxy. Each one connects to dozens of others. We could travel anywhere in known space instantly. Any idea who built them? Yansu asked. The gates are sharing information with us now that they're active. The builders called themselves the Gardeners. They spread these networks across the galaxy millions of years ago, hoping that young species would eventually find them and use them wisely. And the test? Deho asked. They wanted to make sure only the right kind of people got access to the technology, not conquerors or destroyers, but explorers and friends. Species who valued cooperation over domination. Dr. Sora joined them, looking tired but excited. She had been working non-stop to understand the new technology flowing from the void gates. The Gardeners left something else, she said. Instructions, guides. They expected whoever solved the puzzle to help other species do the same. Help them how? Yansu asked. By teaching them what we learned. That some problems can't be solved with pure logic or force. Sometimes you need empathy, creativity, and the willingness to try impossible things. Across the galaxy, the reactions continued to pour in. On the military world of Dracon Prime, General Vex slammed his armored fist against his command table. The Dracon Empire had ruled through strength and fear for centuries. Now humans had gained access to technology that could make their fleets irrelevant. How do we fight an enemy that can appear anywhere instantly? He growled to his advisors. Perhaps we don't fight them, suggested one brave officer. Perhaps we learn from them. On the ancient world of Atheros, the Elder Council debated what humanity's success meant for galactic civilization. They are still young, said Elder Thane. Their technology is primitive, their lifespans short. How can they lead us? Perhaps that is exactly why they can, replied Elder Mora. They have not become set in their ways. They still see wonder in the universe. Back on Nexus Prime, the human team worked around the clock to understand their new responsibilities. The Void Gate network wasn't just a transportation system. It was a gift that came with duties. The Gardeners want us to be teachers, Sora explained to the growing crowd of alien scientists who had come to study human methods. They want us to help other species learn to think with both their minds and their hearts. High Calculator Zenth was among the listeners, his pride struggling against his curiosity. How do we learn to be creative? He asked. Start small, suggested Jawook. Next time you solve a math problem, ask yourself why it matters. What will your solution do for real people? The Kalari Queen node sent a representative, one of her workers who spoke with a slightly different voice than the others. We wish to understand individual thought, the worker said, but we fear losing our unity. You don't have to choose, Mi-young explained. Humans work together all the time. We just make sure everyone gets to contribute their own ideas. Even the Luxari sent energy beings to learn. We gave up physical form to achieve pure logic, one explained. But perhaps logic without emotion is incomplete. Emotion isn't weakness, Captain Wu-jin told them. It's strength. It drives us to protect what we love and discover what we dream about. As the days passed, something amazing happened. The alien species weren't just learning human methods. They were starting to work together in new ways. Vorthak mathematicians began collaborating with Kalari collectives, combining individual brilliance with group cooperation. Luxari energy beings experimented with what they called emotional resonance, trying to remember what it felt like to wonder and dream. Even the warlike Dracons sent representatives, though they claimed they were only interested in the military applications of Void. Gate technology, the galaxy was changing, and at the center of that change was humanity, not as conquerors or rulers but as teachers and friends. Dr. Sora stood in the laboratory late one night, watching the Void Gate pulse with gentle light. The ancient artifact had become something like a pet, responding to human voices and seeming to enjoy their company. Thank you, she whispered to it. The symbols on its surface shifted into patterns that looked remarkably like a smile. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems to solve, and new species to teach. But tonight, Sora felt proud of what humanity had accomplished, They had proven that being human, curious, creative, and kind was exactly what the galaxy needed. 6 months after the Void Gate breakthrough, Commander Deho barely recognized the galaxy he lived in. He stood in his new office aboard Nexus Prime, now serving as Director of Human Galactic Relations. Through his window, he could see ships from dozens of worlds using the Void Gate network that humans had unlocked. Species that had never met before were now neighbors. A soft chime announced his first appointment of the day. High Calculator Xanth entered, but he looked very different from the proud, cold being Deho remembered. The Vorthok's crystalline body glowed with warmer colors, and his voice had lost its harsh edge. "Commander Deho," Xanth said, "I bring a request from the Vorthok High Council. What can we do for you? We have been studying human problem-solving methods for months. We are beginning to understand creativity, but we need help with something more difficult. Which is fun." Xanth's crystal body flickered with embarrassment. "Our species has spent so long focused on pure logic that we have forgotten how to enjoy ourselves. We work constantly, but we are not happy." Deho smiled. "I think we can help with that. Dr. Mi Young has been working with other species on exactly this problem." The next appointment was even more surprising. A Kalari worker entered alone, something that would have been impossible before the humans arrived. The insect-like being moved nervously, clearly uncomfortable being separated from the collective. I am Keeper of Questions," the Kalari said, in a voice that was entirely her own. "I chose this name myself." "That's wonderful," Deho said. "How can I help you?" "The Queen Node wants to start an exchange program. Some of our workers will learn to think individually, while some humans learn to share thoughts with others. We believe both approaches have value. We'd be honored to participate." The morning continued with a parade of requests that would have seemed impossible just months before. The warlike Drakons wanted human teachers to help them find peaceful solutions to conflicts. The ancient etheric collective asked for help understanding young species they had dismissed for centuries. Most surprising of all, the Luxari had requested physical bodies so they could experience emotions and creativity the way humans did. Dr. Sora found Deho during his lunch break. She looked tired but happy, having spent the morning in the new interspecies problem-solving center that had been built around the original Void Gate. "How are the new projects going?" Deho asked. "Amazing," Sora said. "Remember that dying star the Altran Republic asked us to fix? We solved it yesterday." "How?" "The Altrans had been trying to restart it with pure energy. Very logical, but it wasn't working. Then Jaywuk suggested we ask the star what was wrong." Deho laughed. "He wanted to talk to a star? Why not? It worked with the Void Gate. Turns out the star wasn't just running out of fuel, it was lonely. It had been isolated for millions of years while its partner stars burned out. We connected it to a younger star system using Void Gate technology. Now both systems are healthier and brighter. That's incredible. The best part is how we figured it out. We had Vorthok mathematicians, Kalari collective thinkers, Luxari, energy beings, and humans all working together. Each species contributed something different. Admiral Dong Hyun entered the cafeteria, wearing the new uniform of the Human Galactic Engineering Corps. He had been promoted from captain after successfully leading the first mixed-species exploration mission through the Void Gate network. "Commander, Dr. Sora," he said, sitting with them. "I have news from the Outer Rim." "Good news, I hope," Deho said. "The best. We've made contact with 12 new species in the past month. All of them want to join the Galactic Consortium, and all of them specifically requested human teachers." "Why?" Sora asked. "Word is spreading about our methods. Species across the galaxy are hearing that humans solve problems not through conquest or pure logic, but through friendship and creativity. They want to learn those skills." Professor Sunhee joined their table, carrying a datapad full of reports. She had been appointed to lead the new Interspecies Problem-Solving Institute, where beings from across the galaxy came to learn human-style cooperation. "The applications keep pouring in," she said. "We have a waiting list of over 300 species who want to send students to our programs." "What kinds of problems are they bringing us?" Deho asked. "Everything you can imagine." The spiral. Federation can't agree on trade policies. Their negotiators are too logical and keep getting stuck in loops. The crystal monks have a spiritual crisis because their meditation techniques stopped working. The machine collective wants to understand biological creativity. And we're helping with all of these? Not just us, Sun He said. We're teaching other species to help each other. The Vorthak are learning to use creativity in their mathematics. The Kalari are experimenting with individual expression. Even the Luxari are trying to remember what wonder feels like. That afternoon, Daeho visited the original laboratory where everything had started. The void gate still hummed quietly in its chamber, but now it was surrounded by dozens of smaller devices that alien species had built using the principles they learned from humans. Engineer Bo Min was there, working with a mixed team of humans and aliens on a new project. His hair was grayer than before, but his eyes sparkled with the same curiosity that had helped solve the original puzzle. "What are you building?" Daeho asked. "A communication network," Bowman said. "Not just for data, but for emotions and ideas. The gardeners left instructions for it in the deep files of the Void Gate system. Emotions? Imagine being able to share what you're feeling with someone on the other side of the galaxy. Not just words, but the actual experience of joy, wonder, love or hope." A young Vorthak named Clearbell was working beside Bowman, her crystal body glowing with excitement. "We are learning that mathematics can be beautiful," she said. "Human teacher Bowman showed us how numbers can make music. And she's teaching me how to think in multiple dimensions at once," Bowman added. "Turns out human brains are more flexible than we thought." As evening approached, Daeho made his way to the observation deck for a meeting that had become a daily tradition. Representatives from dozens of species gathered there every day to share what they had learned and plan new projects. Tonight, the discussion focused on the most ambitious plan yet, a galactic exploration mission to search for other networks left behind by the gardeners. "The deep space sensors have detected at least 17 possible sites," reported Captain Wu Jin, now leading the exploration division. "Each one could contain technology and knowledge we can't even imagine. And each one will probably require a different approach to unlock," added Mi Young. "The gardeners seemed to enjoy creating puzzles that tested different aspects of civilization. That's why we need mixed crews," said Yunji. "Humans for creativity, Vorthak for analysis, Kalari for cooperation, Luxari for energy manipulation, and dozens of other species for skills we haven't even discovered yet." High Calculator Zenth, who had become one of the project's biggest supporters, projected a holographic star chart. "The nearest site is only 3 months away using the Void Gate network. We could have an answer within a year." "What if we find something dangerous?" asked Keeper of Questions, the Kalari who had learned to think for herself. "Then we'll figure out how to handle it together," Daeho said. "That's what we do now." As the meeting ended and the various species returned to their ships and stations, Daeho remained on the observation deck. Through the massive windows he could see the lights of ships from across the galaxy, all working together on projects that would have been impossible just months before. Dr. Sora found him there, as she often did during these quiet moments. "Thinking about Earth?" she asked. "Actually, I was thinking about the future," Daeho said. "When I was young, I dreamed of humans exploring the stars. I never imagined we'd end up teaching the whole galaxy how to be human." "Is that what we're doing?" "In a way. We're showing them that the best solutions don't always come from being the smartest or the strongest. Sometimes they come from being curious, kind, and willing to try impossible things." A message alert chimed on Daeho's communicator. Another species had sent a request for help with an ancient mystery they couldn't solve. This time, it was the Far Reach Coalition, asking for assistance with a space-time anomaly that had puzzled them for generations. "What do you think?" Sora asked, reading the message over his shoulder. Daeho smiled. "I think we should ask it nicely what's wrong and see if it wants to be friends." They both laughed, but they weren't really joking. In the new galaxy that humans had helped create, friendship and wonder were the most powerful tools for solving any problem. Outside the observation deck, the stars twinkled with possibilities. Somewhere out there, The gardener's other gifts waited to be discovered. And when they were found, they would be unlocked not through force or pure logic, but through the most human approach of all, making friends with the impossible. The galaxy had learned to think like humans, and that had changed everything.